Now, this is part two in a series I'm going to do on satellites because, I mean, this is a terrible hoax. And I showed in part one how the satellites really came of age there in the 60s. Actually, the first one was launched in 1962. And then in 69, we had all these round the world tee ups. First, actually, in 68 with the Beatles. And then we had, of course, Elvis, and they said they did it with the moon too, satellite image the world with the moon landing. So satellites really became the thing, and of course Lou Reed had the song Satellite of Love, and a lot of other songs started to talk about these things. And in the documentary that I'm going to show you a little bit of course we had Arthur C. Clarke turned up. I mean, Arthur C. Clarke is the whole sort of inspiration behind the whole fakery, I feel. And here he was talking about the satellites, and I just thought, well, there you go, eh? All intertwined, and they're still heralding him today. Yes, satellites. I mean, these pieces of space junk. Now, there are many good videos on the satellite hoax. They've been coming around now as people have woken up to the fact that NASA itself is a hoax. Well, all these rockets going up, putting space junk up there that's supposed to be in orbit, well, it's very fishy indeed. And you'll see here some of the measurements that they give for what they call a stationary orbit. And it's just a special figure. I mean, how would they work all this stuff out ahead of schedule? But they seem to know it so well. I mean, NASA is just such an expert when it comes to space. Well, that's what they're into, aren't they? Anyway, let me play some of this documentary and I'll come back at the end and do a bit of a review on some of the things they say, including the guy who says science fiction. A word, science fiction. And there's some silly footage of them walking out to what looks like a building, the same as what NASA has, the old building that looks like a rocket. And then the only rocket they ever launched is a little toy one for people 4 miles away to see. I mean, just think about it. If all these satellites are up there, they had to have launched all the rockets. By some count, it's a couple of thousand. And that's what a lot of the videos I've been watching have been highlighting, that no one's really sure. And when it comes to space debris, 5,000 pieces and more. They've got one of those things like an amusement arcade, going and plucking them all up and cleaning up space.
Right first time, you can't service it, you can't bring it back, you can't complain to the manufacturer that it doesn't work. Failure in space is not an option. If something goes wrong, customers are not happy and they don't come back to you again. So what we've got here is the startings of the telecommunication satellite. So we've got 7 smaller thrusters and we have a main engine which is fitted inside the cone.
If we send spacecraft up into space with no insulation, the distortions caused by the very temperature differences would buckle the structure and destroy it.
If the heart stops, the patient dies. If the quartz crystal stops oscillating, the satellite will die.
If I say I work on satellites, what, you put the dishes on the walls, do you? They just don't understand that there's something up there as well in space.
The moments leading up to the firing of our main engine, it's very tense.
News we get to science fiction, it's just something people dream of, and sort of live a little bit of that dream. This is incredibly special. What we do is quite exceptional here. So when I tell people I work in the space industry, it either sparks conversation and genuine interest, or is a complete conversation killer. The concept of satellites came from Arthur C. Clarke back in 1945. He thought, how can we transmit data from one side of the Earth to the other side of the Earth?
These things make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be. Men will no longer commute, they will communicate. With the launch of Telstar in 1962, transmitting sound and vision across continents and oceans became a reality.
With the fire of the Telstar, a captain will put his thumb up, and there is the picture direct from Telstar. This is the sort of image and the sort of sound on which, in fact, the future of intercontinental telecommunications via space vehicles is built.
Through something at the horizon, it would just fall and drop. If you threw it hard enough, you could probably throw it past the horizon. And where would it drop to? Well, it would continuously drop. And that's what we're talking about when you have enough energy to throw a rock or whatever it is to the horizon, but you throw it hard enough that it then continuously falls. Then you're in orbit.
For a satellite,
That it then continuously falls. Then you're in orbit.
for a satellite to stay in the same place in the sky, it has to travel at the same rate as the Earth spins, once every 24 hours. This is called geostationary orbit, and it can only be achieved at 35,786 kilometers above the equator. Any closer to the Earth, and the satellite orbits too fast. Any further away, and it's too slow. And that's why in the UK, all TV dishes point at 29 degrees above the horizon. They are all receiving a signal from one particular satellite that never moves in relation to our homes.
Microwaves won't work around the curvature of the Earth. You need to be able to see the point that you're transmitting to or receiving from.
The satellite receives and transmits signals through large antenna dishes that fold out from its main body. After almost 2 years of precision engineering and costing over £100 million, a 6-ton telecommunications satellite is sitting on top of this rocket.
In terms of the satellite, the risk here, of course, is that it's now about to be shaken from the rocket motors. It's also going to get a fantastic thrust load on it.
And now, it's just 1 day away from being fired into orbit.
The amount of tests that we do to verify it effectively never guarantees you 100%, but it guarantees you that you've got a very, very high probability of success. And that's what we go for.
The violence of the launch is the most dangerous moment of a satellite's life.
We have to make sure it survives this phase, and then it can go into operation. This is the bit where we all get that little bit of butterflies in the stomach.
And although it's being launched in faraway French Guiana, most of it was designed and built in Britain.
The nearest we get to science fiction, it's just something people dream of. We sort of live a little bit of that dream. this is incredibly special. What we do is quite exceptional here.
Now you can discuss satellites all day long, but satellites hinge on rockets. Without the rocket, there can be no satellite. Now we have easily established that rockets are a fraud. Yes, you can have rockets that go to a certain height, but they curve off and fall back to Earth. But of course, NASA and the satellite people want to believe that it breaks free of most of the gravity and they get to this orbit level where, like the guy said, it's just like a rock perpetually falling, but it never comes back to Earth. I'm finding this all like a fantasy. And I tell you, I'm going to cover deGrasse Tyson. That Tyson guy, he really has got me angry because he acts like everybody else is so stupid. And he's such a typecast character, like a Cosby. The other guy, of course, they have is Cuckoo, the Japanese man. And we know his fraudulent conversation about the moon where he never answers the questions. I'm afraid satellites are sunk just by the rockets. And of course, they would be very weak, you know, they have to be that light. And they say they operate flawlessly for 15 years and failure is not an option. Well, we'll look a bit more into the actual construction of them, but I did notice that they've got all these rockets on them, at least the new ones, because they've got to keep themselves in position, etc. Well, the thing is, what did they have years ago? And they rave on now that they're all solar powered. So there's a lot to work with, just looking at the fraudulent stuff that they say to cover their tail. But as you can see, they've got quite a little acting trick going for satellites as well, because they're attached to the hip to NASA. So it's just the same, never different. The same people who do nuclear will do NASA, will do satellites, you'll find. It's just like the acting tricks for Boston or Sandy Hook in the change. This is fraud science, American and British style.
We get to science fiction, it's just something people dream of, and we sort of live a little bit of that dream.